Hi, I'm Trev Hutchings, and this is how to create a drum beat. First, let's start a new project. So click on Create, and then click on New Project. And then for this particular drum beat, because I'm going to use samples, click on the sampler. And then down here, I'm going to click on Browse One Shots. And over here, just going to make sure it's already on one shot. And then click on Instrument. And then click on Kick. And to hear these samples, just press on the play button to the left of the sample. Once you've chosen a kick sample, I'm going to drag this kick sample now down to pad V. Then I'm going to press on pad B. Come up here and click on kick. I'm going to click on snare. And I'm going to drag a snare sample to pad B. Then I'm going to click on pad N. Click on snare. I'm going to click on hi-hats. And then I'm going to drag a hi-hat sample to pad N. So now I've got my 3 pads for my basic drum kit. I'm now going to close the sample list by clicking on Bandlab Sounds. Next, I'm going to click on the Midi Editor, which is over here. Then I'm going to go up here to the sample track and right mouse click on the sample track and then click on Grid and then click on 1/4. Now that sets up the grid here into quarter notes, and down this side here you can see these numbers and letters, and they represent the pads that we were just adding samples to. And you can move this up and down by moving to just above it here, and then you can drag up or down. But if that doesn't give you enough space to see all the pads, then over this side you can click on the scroll bar and scroll and drag it downwards. So now I can see my pad V, which is my kick drum, pad B, which is my snare drum, and pad N, which is my hi-hat. Now because I've set the grid to 1/4 note, every note that I put down is going to be 1 note long based on this signature of 4x4. I'm not really going to get into that, but most of the time your signature is going to be 4x4. So by putting this into quarter note, each one of these lines, vertical lines on this grid, is going to represent the starting point of a note. Because there's, with this signature of 4x4, there's going to be 4 notes per bar. And you'll notice along here it says 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 and then 2. Well, this section here that's 1 is the first bar, and then 2 starts the second bar, and 3, that line there, starts the third bar. And inside this first bar we've got the first line here, which is the first note. Then we've got the second line here under 1.2, which is the second note, and this line here under 1.3, which is the third note, and this line here under 1.4, which is the fourth note. So if we go down to my kick drum pad, which is the bottom one, V here, this row here, this darker row here, any notes that I put on this darker row here will trigger pad V, which is the kick drum. So each of the notes put down here will make a kick drum sound. And if I double click between the first line and the second line, a note is added to the grid which starts at the first note position and is 1 note long. And if I do the same between the second and third line, I get the second note of the bar. And if I do it between the third and fourth lines, I get the third note of the bar, and between the fourth and the first line of the second bar, I get my fourth note. So now I've got the 4 notes of the bar added to my bass drum. And if I play that now, I've got a very basic, straightforward kick drum beat. Now if I go up to the second row, this row here, which is my snare drum, if I click between the second and third lines and add a note there, and then do the same on the last bit here, I can add 2 snare drum beats. And if I play that, and then above that I've got this row here which has got my hi-hat on it. So if I add 4 notes there and then play that, we've got a very classic drum beat sound. Now because this grid has been set up as 1/4, each of these notes are on the note. So you can double click on any of these notes to delete it, and you can press on a note and drag it, so you can drag it to a different position, and you'll notice that you can move these around to make the beat sound slightly different. And if I play that now, you can hear it's a slightly different beat. I'm just going to put the loop on at the top here. If I play that again, I've got a slightly different beat, but you'll notice as I add or delete notes, all the notes will stay on the beat. And if I delete 2 notes, so I've got no beats at all in this section here between lines 2 and 3, I can change the mood of the beat even more. Okay, so now we know how to make a very basic beat. Let's make something a little bit more interesting. So go back to the sampler track. I'm going to right mouse click in the blank area, so not actually on the sample here, but in the blank area, so that this menu comes up. Then I can click on grid size and then change it to 1/8. And you'll notice now that there are twice as many lines running across my bar, and these extra lines run straight through the middle of each of the notes that we've added. And if I move the cursor to the end of a note and then drag to the left, I can then change all these notes into 1/8 notes, but they'll still be exactly where they were before. So they'll still play exactly the same as they were before, it's just they're only half the length now. So if I play that now, it would be exactly the same. Now, like setting the grid to 1/4, if you set the grid to 1/8, you can add and take away notes, and they will all still be in time with the beat. So let's just add a few more in here. But when you add the ones to the second slot, the second half, if you like, of the notes, you start to make a slightly more interesting beat. Once again, you can just keep adding notes to find something that's interesting. And every single note that you add or take away, it's not going to cause any problems because everything is always going to be in time with the beat. And you'll notice as you move the different notes around, you'll get a slightly different feel to the rhythm of the beat. So now that we've learned how to create a beat, the next thing we want to learn is how to change the speed of the beat, because that also affects the feel of the song. So if we go up to here where it says, where this thing here 120 BPM, that's the tempo of the song. So if we click the mouse button down on that and then drag down, we can slow this beat down. So we'll come down to about 68 BPM and then play. We kind of get into the kind of ballad song type of tempo. And if we click on this beat again and drag up the screen, I'll get it up here to about, say, 157, and I'll play the beat again. We kind of now got into the kind of tempo levels that are more for dance music and that kind of thing. And I'm going to push it back down, drag them down on here and push it back down to about 120. Now 120 is probably what I would call more a rock beat type tempo, somewhere between 100 and 120. Okay, so now that we've been able to create a beat and everything fits nicely into the beat, and we've been able to change the speed of the beat, next thing we need to know is how to extend this across the length of the song. So if we click on the song, this area here, this is bar of beat that we've created represented on the actual track. So if we click, press the left mouse button down on this loop icon, press the mouse button down and then drag to the right, we can extend this drum beat for as long as we like along the track, and you'll see it's appeared here as a replication of the beat. And you'll also notice that if I go back here and if I delete one of the notes, that deleted note will also disappear from all of the repeats of the beat.